Hey guys, Kurgan here and welcome to my Pyrochon guide. So Pyrochon is obviously a hybrid between Pyromancer and Archon, and it's sort of similar concept as Harpcon, that we're taking the damage from Pyromancer and then coupling it with the raid utility that Archon brings. In terms of damage, it's quite a lot less than Harpcon, and the only real reason why you would play Pyrochon is if you were on a fight which you had to be ranged for. Otherwise, you'd play Harpcon every time. And yeah, the other range spec is Stormcon. In terms of which one does more damage, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't really tested it, but I know Pyrochon does definitely similar damage and might just beat it out. But don't quote me on that. But still, Pyrochon might be a useful spec, so I'm going to show you how to play. So first off, we're going to look at the build. So the build is 40 Pyromancer and 36 Archon. The points are pretty set in stone. The only thing which you can change around is if you are on a fight which there is a lot of AoE damage, which will cause your spells to get pushed back so they take longer to cast. If this is the case, then you want to take 1 point away from Stoke the Flames and 2 away from Burning Focus, so you get 3 points in total, and then put them into Fiery Concentration. This will stop the pushback which you'll get on the spells, and it should be a slight DPS increase than taking the pushback. Otherwise, the points stay as they are. The masteries you want to be taking are Ethereal Flux, Methodical Destruction, Combat Alacrity, Proficient Restoration, and Arcana Shield. For the Kalert, as ever, they're in the description below. There's the long code. Copy that and import that into your set, and that will give you the alerts which you'll need to play the spec. For the macros, we have 4 macros. There's one lava field one, there's a heatwave macro, a beginning macro with Volcanic Bomb and Earthen Barrage in, and then we have a spam macro as well. The keybinds which we'll need on top of this, I'll just quickly list, are Countdown, Flame Bolt, Crumbling Resistance, Ashen Defense, Internalized Charge, your Interrupt Scorch, Lava Field as a manual keybind, your 2 auras, Shared Figure, Vitality of Stone, and Cinder Burst. Okay, so first off, the buffs which we need to be using at all times are Pyromancer's Armor, Lightning Charge, then our 2 auras, which are Shared Vigor and Vitality of Stone. Now, remember with your auras is that they have a 5-minute duration, so you will need to refresh this during the fight if your fight goes on for longer than 5 minutes. It's not only a raid loss in terms of utility if you forget to refresh them, but your damage scales which each aura you have up, so it's a personal DPS loss as well not to refresh them, so keep an eye on them. There is an alert to show you when they're missing, so keep that in mind. So I'm going to go through Pyrochon in sort of 3 sections and how to play. First off, I'll go through the DPS rotation, then I'll talk about our support abilities and how we should be using them, and then I'll talk about how to start the fight off properly with getting all your buffs up as soon as possible. Right, so the first part, the DPS rotation. If you've played Pyromancer, 61 Pyromancer, then you'll know that, then you'll pretty much know how to play this. It's really a simplified version, and it's very easy. So we have our Internalized Charge. This is a off global cooldown ability which gives us 6 stacks, and for each stack it makes our next damaging ability do extra damage, and also it consumes that stack. As we see, when we press it, we get the Kalert which turns up, and when we cast the damaging ability, it takes down the stacks. And the way we would just want to deal with this is that once it falls off, we want to refresh it as soon as possible. So as soon as it went to 0, I pressed it again to get 6 stacks again. The second thing is when we cast Countdown on our target, it applies Accelerant. Now you'll see the Kalert also pop up here. This increases the damage we deal, so we want to be keeping this up at all times and keeping the target debuffed with Accelerant. The third is when we cast Improved Flame Bolt. It gives us a damage buff, and we want to keep this up also at all times. So remember, keep these up. Now, then with all these three up, we want to spam our spam macro and then look out for Cinderburst procs. As you see here, we have a reactive. When this pops up, we want to use it as soon as possible, making sure we have all our buffs up for it. So we keep up the 3 buffs and debuffs. We use our spam macro when we have nothing else to do. And then we wait for Cinderburst procs and then use the procs on cooldown. That's the basic rotation. We do have one 1-minute cooldown. This is Heat Wave. The way we want to treat this is that we want to get Accelerant up, improve Flame Bolt, and then we want to use the spam macro, the Heat Wave macro, sorry, and spam the Heat Wave macro while still keeping off our buffs and debuffs and internalized charge. And we also use Cinderburst procs as soon as they come during Heat Wave. Okay, that's pretty simple. So now we can talk about our support abilities. So as an Archon, our responsibility is to keep the 5-minute debuffs up on the target, which is Crumbling Resistance and Ashen Defense. Crumbling being the non-physical and Ashen Defense being the physical damage. So we want to keep these up at all times. If you see here, we have the Kalert. It's slightly clipped with the layout, but you can see what's going on. The Kalert show the duration and also if it's missing on the target. So that should help you make sure they never fall off. And remember, you want to be kind of clipping these early, so refresh them when there's like less than 10 seconds left. Don't ever let there be any duration where they're missing on the target, because that's just really bad. So always make sure they're up. Of course, I've already mentioned we need to keep up our auras at all time, but we've already discussed that, so we know that. Third thing, is that we have Lava Field. This is a damage buff, and it's a circular AoE, as you see here. Everyone stood in this AoE will get a damage buff. So the way we treat this is that we use this at the start of the fight, and then on cooldown every minute for the rest of the fight. It's very important that with Lava Field is that we always use it exactly on cooldown. We never delay it unless there's some reason why we can't deal damage. If we always are dealing damage, then we always use it on cooldown. It's really hurtful for the raid if you delay it. The last thing which we need to be using as an Archon is Flaring Power. Flaring Power is a massive 5-minute cooldown for the raid DPS. And in most fights, you use it at the start of the fight, and then you'll always use it 5 minutes in or 6 minutes in, depending on whether you can get 2 or 3 flaring powers in. So essentially, yeah, when we use it 5 minutes in or 6 minutes in, we always use it with our Lava Field. Never use it separate from the other cooldowns, otherwise it's a bit of a waste. So now that we know our support responsibilities, I can show you how to start the fight off as well as possible. So we want to be getting up all our support buffs up as soon as possible. So the way we're going to do this is that we cast Volcanic Bomb, which is the top of your starting macro, as the tank counts down, and it should finish casting and hit the target as the tank pulls. And once it's pulled, we put our 2 debuffs up, so Crumbling Resistance and Ashen Defense. Then we follow that up with Flaring Power and Lava Field. Then we cast our starting macro again, which will cast Earthen Barrage. Then once that's finished, we go into our personal cooldown, so we will go Countdown, Flame Bolt, and then Ethereal Blast into our Heat Wave macro. So I'll show you here on the dummy, doing it at full speed. So I'm going to make sure my auras are up and everything else is up as well. So okay, so I'm going to start off with internalized charge, then start macro, 2 debuffs, flaring lava, Earthen Barrage with our star macro again, countdown, and then I'm going to use Cinder Burst into Ethereal Blast, and then countdown, and into Heat Wave, sorry. As you see here, I just spam the Heat Wave macro with keeping up internalized charge and improved flame bolt and also accelerant. And then once heat waivers run out, I go back to spamming my spam macro. I made a mistake there by letting internalized charge fall off and not refreshing in time, but it's not the end of the world. And so yeah, at this point we just use our spam macro and then keep up internalized charge, accelerant, and improve flame bolt, and then use cinder burst when it becomes an instant cast proc. That sums up my Pyrochon guide. There's not much more to it that you can do. It has no AoE capability and it doesn't have any crazy utility. So as I said, it's a spec which you only really want to be playing if you have to play ranged, and also if it's a purely single target fight, so there's no cleaving involved, which StormCon will do well in. You won't have that many opportunities to play it in, but it's still a useful spec to have. I hope you guys found the guide helpful and informative. If you liked it, can you please like the video and subscribe, and I will be bringing you more class guides. See you guys.